It's a beautifully cold day at about -7 degrees C, and we've had 45 to 50 centimetres of fresh powder come down. And me and the Cherokee are going to take a drive through one of my favourite little trails out here. And obviously I'm pretty keen to try out my locker and my tyres since I grooved them and modified them. But before I drive, we're just going to take a look at the actual snow I'm driving on, like what kind of snow is it. And I'm just going to show you briefly some variations of snow conditions before I get out there. So all this snow came down in the last couple of days, and if you can make a snowball and you can compress it, then generally speaking it isn't powder. But these are some of the best conditions to actually drive in, with powdery snow like that is also slightly compressible, because you can actually make tracks with this and float on it, but it's also really easy to push. So even if this was double the height, we'd still be tearing through it. And it's also the kind of snow you can get away with using a chain in if you're losing traction. Because it's so easy to push, you tend not to have any real problems with hang-ups under the vehicle. And with a chain on the rear but no chain on the front, allowing the front to float and the back to dig down and grip, I'm able to grip the hard ground beneath but push the snow because it's so light. Now if temperatures went up by about 7 degrees C, I'd stop using chains, because the snow becomes wet, it compacts together, so you can make ice or snowballs with it. And because it's dense, it can get underneath the vehicle and you can get hung up really easily. And chains are obviously great at digging. They obviously are really good at gripping, but when you're pushing wet snow and you're pushing that great big heavy wall of wet snow, what happens is the vehicle loses traction, especially on inclines. The tyres begin to dig with the chain on, and you go down instead of going forward. The snow packs under the vehicle, you get hung up, and suddenly you're sat there with the vehicle getting supported by the snow and all 4 tyres are spinning. So a chain isn't really that useful in deep wet snow. After wet snow, when things cool down again, you get sugar snow, because obviously the snow droplets kind of freeze into like beads basically. And sugar snow is, in my opinion, the most challenging form of snow. It is just like dry salt. It does not bond together. You cannot make a track out of it. It doesn't matter how many times you seem to drive over the stuff, it just doesn't stick together, it just doesn't compress. And when you shovel it away, more of it just pours back in and replaces what you took away and goes back under the vehicle again. It's really challenging stuff, and when it's extremely deep, you really just have no chance in a setup like mine. The tyres are too small. You know, to offset the weight of this vehicle, I would need a massive tyre with an enormously wide footprint and a long footprint to get me through snow like that. You really want to be floating as best as you possibly can. But obviously the main point I keep stressing here is deep snow. But what we're going to do in this video is drive this road over the coming 4 or 5 weeks in varying snow conditions, and I'll kind of show you the different types of snow we get here, the tyre pressures I'm using, and we'll see how it performs. Now I've already shared with you the weight of my vehicle. It's around 2,200 kilos, and I have weighed the vehicle on a full-scale weigh bridge prior to making this video, so I know how much it weighs, but I have rounded it up actually, just because, you know, there are other pieces of equipment in here now, like my camera gear and everything. But the point being is, like, the vehicle you're using, the depth of the snow, the type of the snow, the tyres you're using, the tyre pressure, there are so many variables to snow wheeling, and all of it can ultimately result in your success and failure. But anyway, you know the drill. Let's start driving. Oh, and there's yellow snow, and if you take a multivitamin, that shit will look radioactive, so there's a lot of flavours to unlock. Anyway, let's get driving, let's see how it goes. So obviously I'm in low range, but I haven't aired down, and I'm just going to kind of show you why it's important to air down, because we are going to get a lot of axle hop if we don't, even on 45 centimetres of snow. So I'm in first low range. Traction's really bad. You can already feel axle hop shaking about a bit. We are moving fine, but it's awful. You know, we're drifting about a bit, you know, we're snaking around. But anyway, I'm not trying to teach you to suck eggs, just kind of showing you if you're not familiar with driving snow. So I'm just going to air down and probably go down to like maybe sort of 7 psi, something like that. I can generally go pretty low because I'm on a bead lock. So I don't actually have a tyre pressure gauge, but I generally just eyeball the tyre. That to me looks pretty good. I think we're going to float really well. You can already see, like on 25 psi, we were already on 6 inches, 15, 16 centimetres of snow, so should be fine now. So now that we're aired down, it's a bit of mechanical sympathy, but it should be a piece of cake really. It's obviously a piece of cake, to be honest with you. I'm just having some fun. My transfer case sounds like a complete bag of shit because it really needs some bearings doing in it, but it is fine, trust me. I just rebuilt it using some premium second-hand parts. These are the perfect conditions to basically drive, you know, this kind of powder, and it really doesn't matter, as I say, if this sort of powder is double the height that you're seeing now. The vehicle is still going to push it absolutely fine on this tyre pressure, and obviously I'm not using a locker. I've just got a limited slip at the back, the front locker's disengaged, and I'm just, you know, ploughing along, and yeah, it's really nice. So you have to forgive my microphone, it's just decided not to work briefly, but as you can see, I've reached a slight incline. I'm going up the incline, and I've just started to lose traction where it's got a little bit steeper, and obviously physics is kind of working against me. You've got the weight of the vehicle coupled with the size of the tyre and the footprint, and obviously you're on a sort of low traction surface, so you know there's a kind of a few factors at play there. You could argue a bigger tyre would have got me through this, but it is what it is. And because I'm kind of stationary, the rear tyres have begun to dig, and obviously the rear axle is now anchored in the snow, and even with the locker on, all 4 tyres are spinning, but obviously I'm not going anywhere because I've already anchored my rear axle down. But in this case it's really easy. I'm just going to use momentum to get me through it. It's just a very small incline. If it's a long steep incline, what I would tend to do is if I got axle hop again, I would ease off and repeat the process of reversing back and getting that momentum again. It really just depends. You just got to try what you can. The snow's a little bit deeper here in the forest. We're pushing a bit of snow now. Certain areas are deeper than others, obviously. It just really depends on where the wind hits and other such factors. But yeah, the Jeep's just tractoring along nicely. This is really my first winter on a locker, as I said earlier. So hopefully this year the locker will be a massive advantage for me in getting to those dogging sites where you know, the pros are. You know what I'm saying? Like, not those places where you're finding like courgettes with condoms on. I'm talking about the places where, you know, where men get pregnant. Conditions get about double what they are here today, then inclines are going to be much more challenging. It's not so much going on the flats that's really the issue. You can have a lot of powder, and when I say powder I mean snow that doesn't stick together. You know, if snow's sticking together, then technically really that isn't powdered snow. I would say that's wet snow, and that's really heavy stuff, and obviously, as I said earlier, you tend to be able to get up a bit higher on that kind of snow, and that's kind of what you want to do. But still, it's probably going to be a laborious day of snow wheeling or driving or overlanding or whatever you're doing out there if you're in really deep wet snow. Like, we're still at about -1, -2 degrees C despite the sun coming out, but then we are in the shade of the forest, and this snow is still powdery. It's still pretty easy to push. So it's about 3 weeks on from where you saw me driving around, and we had about a metre of snow shortly after that video, after those clips you just saw of me driving. And then temperatures rose to about +4 degrees, something like that, for around about 5 or 6 days. The snow has reduced down, but unfortunately, given where I live in the world, it's all turned into sugar snow, because the snow is all like, all the snowflakes have melted and bonded together and formed those little ice balls, kind of like Bigfoot's little ice balls, but I'm sure it'll get me for that on another camp later. But you can kind of see the Jeep's all geared up a little bit differently from what it was before. A few more things on the rack and stuff just to kind of prepare it for the winter. I got the chains in there as well, which probably would actually come in handy today. And sugar snow, like I said, is just the worst snow. I really hate it. Now it's -25 degrees C today with 90% humidity, so it's absolutely freezing. So if you're one of these people where it takes you a long time to take a dump, be careful in these conditions, because you will have a frozen shitsicle hanging out and it can be uncomfortable. But let me show you the vehicle and the tyre pressure. Better. So I reckon that's probably about 2 or 3 psi, and that's probably the best I can do on these tyres. So we're on some obscenely low pressures. Let's see how it handles. Should crawl a lot better. Honestly, sugar snow's the worst. It really is. I absolutely hate it, and this is nothing. This really isn't even deep. Snowmobile tracks obviously make it a bit harder, especially if they're old, but this isn't a commonly used snowmobile trail, so I'm just going to drive through here. So this snow's really not even that deep, and already you can kind of see the traction issues I had on about 10 psi, which is what I was on previously, and now I've dropped down to like 2 or 3 psi. The vehicle's, you know, crawling through it absolutely fine. So pretty much all of that was locker off, low range second gear. You know, it's just a bit more controlled. Like, the reality is the drone needs to follow the vehicle, and it just can't go that fast, and I can't control it freehand and drive the vehicle very quickly. It just isn't possible. So a lot of the shots you see me tootling along in the Jeep in, I'm going a bit slower than I'd like to because I'm flying the drone. Now I'm actually in 4 high, and I can drop it into second and like really power through some snow. Obviously it's going to be a lot less controlled, you know, and there's situations like that where the ground's changing, you know, and I'm sort of powering on. The vehicle obviously will get a lot hotter because it's going to be working harder, because like you don't have that sort of gearing bias that you would in low range. But the reality is it still just powers through it. It just that the T-case sounds a bit crap really, because I need to rebuild it again. I've got a new chain and everything, so you know there's kind of like a fine line, isn't there, in a way? Well, not really a fine line, but there's a line between like mechanical sympathy and just like blasting the vehicle through. Like, you can do that, but the oil temperatures are going to go up and the coolant temperatures are going to go up, and the whole thing's probably just going to have a bit of a shit time. And if you get into a situation where the axles and the wheels are spinning like crazy, you might just blow a U-joint. So I tend not to sort of drop it into 4 high second to like power through things, although it is good fun sometimes in certain conditions. Well, we're back again, and it's about 1 week on from when you saw me driving on all that sugar snow. At the moment I'm driving down a back road. I'm obviously on street pressures, about 25 psi, and I'm in 4 high. I can't really remember what gear I'm in. But we've had about 20-30 centimetres more snow, but also a lot of wind. So there's going to be a lot of snow drifts around, which is obviously going to make things pretty challenging if we hit a big one. Because the thing about snow drifts is, even though there's nice fresh powder coming down and it's -11 degrees C, snow drifts are dense. idiots like me. But I've reached the beginning of a small trail. This is one of the roads that gets you to the main trail I want to be going on, and I'm driving into it in low range on street pressures, and as I plough into this, you can already see I'm running into issues. Now initially I didn't have my locker on because I just wanted to see how it felt, and as I try and reverse out, you can kind of see that I'm having issues immediately. The tyres are digging down very quickly because they have a really small contact patch. It doesn't matter that they've been siped and they're studded and that they're a 35, which in my opinion is a pretty small tyre for this kind of work. They're digging down quickly, and it's just street pressure basically, and even with the locker on, it doesn't matter. Physics isn't there. You know, you do not have enough of a footprint to support the weight of vehicle to keep it high enough from getting hung up, and the surface you're driving on doesn't have enough traction to allow the tyres to grip to push anything out the way or move the snow. I'm actually also having intermittent problems with my e-locker up front, which you all warned me about. But obviously the first thing to do is to start airing down tyres, and I'm going to air down to about 3 or 4 psi. I'm going to go really low and just see how this pans out, see how the vehicle performs. And you can see that the snow is considerably higher than when we first started driving the road, you know, at the beginning of this video, like 4 or 5 weeks ago. Like it's about double the height, maybe a little bit more. But one of the main issues was the temperature fluctuation, which created that sugar snow that I was driving on a week ago. Now that's still there, you know, that's still underneath this fresh layer of powder. So, you know, the fact is you still have to contend with that. But back in the vehicle, now I'm on like 3 psi, something like that, about probably the same I was on in the last video of the sugar snow. 4 low, first gear, and here we go. Like, the vehicle is already freeing itself up extremely easily, and now I can actually drive forward through the snow, and you can see the vehicle lifting as it drives up onto that snow. It's compacting it. You're creating a hard track basically. And I'm not trying to teach anyone to suck eggs here. There might be a lot of people watching this that just aren't familiar with different types of snow or the variables that come with it. Maybe you're only dealing with like 12 inches of snow as maximum the whole year. You can get away with like a pretty inadequate tyre and high pressures in those situations. I mean, I just belted it down the road in 20-30 centimeters of snow on 25 psi and 4 high, you know, and I had no problems with traction or anything. So, you know, that's just the way that goes. But anyway, let's see how this track goes today. There is a snowmobile track in the middle here. Not that it's a commonly used snowmobile road, because I generally don't drive those, because these ruts are really irritating when you're on a snowmobile. But anyway, the vehicle's doing really well. I'm actually in low range third, just kind of tootling along basically, and the drone's on autopilot, so hopefully it shouldn't have any issues. But this part here can be treacherous because of snow drifts and stuff, which I anticipate I shall probably run into. Ah, no, it's okay, it's okay. It's going alright, which is great. So obviously the slower I go, the easier that I float on the snow. If I just crawl along like this, you know, I'm actually pretty high on that snow, and it's obviously a very boring day's driving because, you know, you're going pretty slowly. This part here looks a little bit deeper, just because I guess there's not that many trees here and the snow has been able to build up with the wind. We've not hit any real savage snow drifts yet. I need to turn my locker off actually to make this turn feel better. And we're going to go into this sort of forest track here, which is going to be very challenging, I think. So I'm going to take this real slow, this first part anyway, on this incline. I just really want to see how the vehicle behaves. I'm going to put the locker on, although I'd be pretty surprised if it works actually. This is just a really small incline, but we are on a very low tyre pressure, but the vehicle has dug down, so it's just loss of traction really. So I'm just going to look through the drone screen. I kind of want to see if my locker is even working. It is working, but there ain't no way I'm getting up there. I can try and use momentum. I was thinking about putting the chains on just to see how that would go down, but I got a feeling it's just going to dig me deeper the further into this track I go, because there really is no going back now, and this is all uphill. It's going to be pretty challenging, but to deal with these snow drifts, I'm just going to go back and forth until I've knocked them away, and then it looks like it opens up a little bit. That's kind of it now. There's no going back. I'm in here, and I think it's going to be hard work, and it's probably a good thing I'm on such low tyre pressures. It's really the snow drifts that'll be the major issue, because you just can't really anticipate where they're going to be, them buggers. So I don't know really. We'll see how it goes. The snow's not that deep in here really, but the snow drifts obviously are very dense, so that's the problem. Well, it's got a little bit deeper here where it's opened up a bit, and obviously I've sort of bellied up. My locker's actually working, but I'm not going anywhere really, and the, you know, I mean, all 4 tyres are spinning, so I'm just going to have to back up, use a bit of momentum to get through this. I am tempted to sort of stop and put the chains on, just to see whether they make a huge difference, and I think I'm going to do that up ahead. Going even lower than, yeah, let's see how this does, and that's it. So that is very, very low tyre pressure all round now. Probably don't want to do that if you're not on a bead lock. This is only a single bead lock. So this is kind of what's given me second thoughts about a chain, and it's more just to do with the varying snow conditions up to this point in time, because you can see we've got about 25 centimetres, maybe more, of snow there, maybe a little bit more, before we get to the frozen ground. So the Jeep is floating on quite a bit of snow. I've driven this track a couple of times, so obviously I've compressed this a little bit more than if you just drove over it once. But you know, if I put a chain on, then obviously that tyre will dig down and I'll be touching that hard ground there, and this axle's already dragging its way through the snow. Not that badly, because the front is obviously clearing most of it, but you know, it's going to be dragging its ass even more. We're going to lose effectively almost all of that height there from the top of that leaf spring perch to this piece to the snow here. We'll lose all of that. It will be that much lower, and that would be really bad in this case, because obviously the front is doing most of the trail clearing, knocking through all of that. You know, so that's really where most of the hang-ups are. Well, we're on some full droopy nutsack pressure, so that means crawling speed all the way. Let's see how she handles. Crawling through it. Oh no, a twig! My Jeep! Leave it alone. But now this thing's crawling, we're on like basically no tyre pressure, so like as tank tracky as those tyres can be. The main thing really now is just that if you sense you've hit something and you feel digging, stop like that, reverse, have a look at the horror that you're pushing, which isn't too bad really, and then, you know, go at it again. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, like I said, you know, you're in the bedroom and like you just, these are the rules of engagement, okay? Try again. Crawl over the mound. Digging. We're going in. Right, out again. These are snowdrifts for you. They're all dense and compact and annoying. That's basically it. Yeah, so that's the thing really. You're pushing some pretty dense drifts, and there's the hang up really. Like maybe when I get out of this open area and back into the forest, or the plantation anyway, is that what this is? You can see the trees are quite young. I'll have an easier time. Well, I decided to bite the bullet. I'm going to try chains. I'm going to try chains on the rear, keep the front up and the pressure low in the front, but obviously I'm going to let some air out the tyres for the chains. But I've actually just driven the vehicle onto some traction boards at the back. I've put the chain block under the tyre and crawled onto it. One tyre hasn't worked out, but I'll start with that side first. I'm just putting air back in the tyre so I can get the profile of the chain correct. Once the chain's on, I'll tighten it right up. I'll take more air out, probably not as low as you've seen me run today, but it's going to be somewhere along the lines of maybe like 7 psi, something like that. Now I say that, but I'm totally shit because I don't even have a pressure gauge. I'm just doing it by eye and by the sound of the air that comes out the tyre and sort of what I'm used to, but I wouldn't recommend you do that. I do need to get one to get accurate figures. Now I've talked about coming out here alone before. You know, I'm out here on my own all the time, and it isn't for everyone. Now, most people I see online, they're out in groups of people, and obviously that can be really good because you can help each other and split equipment up and all that kind of stuff. For me, I'm pretty much always solo, so you know, you have to have a lot of preparations on you really to deal with these conditions. Like, it's only -11 now, but obviously I've got a hell of a long way to go before I get out of this forest. Now there might be a chance that I can turn around if things get really bad, and I might have to think about doing that, but for the time being we'll see how this goes. Looks good. Maybe here. So these are obviously just trampoline springs. I mean, all this is going to completely loosen up, like big time. It's all going to just like really loosen up, so it's just important to know that. You might have to just stop and have a look. But that looks good. Do the other side. I won't show you that, it's pretty boring. Little mod I did. Double struts. Fuck you, winter. I do have another set of chains at home for the front. They're a bit lighter, but I don't really like using them at the moment. So there we go. Well, this is the moment of truth. Was it one big waste of time? Go back a little bit first. Lockers on, gonna go real slow, just gonna see how these things feel, see what sort of traction it gives me. I got a feeling I got to go back. As suspected, added traction, but real slow. this is a no-go. This is it's too savage for me. Maybe I can reverse in there. I'll give it a go. So it is a bit of a shame to have to give up, and it would have been great to kind of make that run, but it is all uphill, as you can see in the drone shot. You are just kind of going up and up and up, and that's really where it gets pretty challenging. Well, this video was supposed to end after the last time I was driving on the sugar snow. I actually did a completely different outro, but I saw the conditions today and I thought, let's make this video a little bit longer, come out in some deeper snow. I think the snow today was a little bit more in terms of reaching the limitations of what my setup can handle, and that really is what it comes down to. You know, we've talked about different snow conditions. I haven't really gone into massive detail, or else this video could be so long, and also I haven't experienced all the different snow conditions. You know, I don't have enough experience really to do a video like that, I don't really think. I mean, I've covered as much as I know in this video, to the best of my knowledge, with the setup that I've got. But I think really when it comes to winter driving, so winter road driving and snow wheeling, they are ultimately two very different things. Like when you go out onto the main roads there that have been ploughed, that are like this much with ice and fresh snow occasionally before they're worked, then the requirements for a tyre are very, very different to what you need out here. You know, nobody out there runs all terrains or anything like that at this time of year. Everybody is on proper dedicated winter tyres with tungsten studs. Now I've got a mud terrain, or like an aggressive terrain tyre, and I've obviously siped it and I've studded it to make it perform better on the ice roads, but the reality is it's really inadequate for that as well, as much as it is inadequate for this kind of work too, because the tyre choice makes a huge difference. It can make the difference between ploughing snow and floating on snow. Now if you've got deep pockets, you can obviously get tracks for your vehicle. They're really expensive, but then you can actually have your own issues with tracks, and when it comes to extremely deep snow, they actually do often falter a lot as well. You know, if you think about it from physics, you've got a snowmobile that's 150 to 200 kilos, and pretty much the entire underneath of it is a track, and that can sink and sort of drown in sugar snow and get mechanical problems. You know, like a 2 or 4 ton vehicle, depending on how you've built it on tracks, is probably going to have its own issues too. So tracks aren't always the answer. But I mean, this video wasn't supposed to be like, this is how you drive on snow. It was really just a video for people who are curious about, you know, what steps you take to succeed on snow, and what are the variables and what are the variations in snow. You know, like as the layers of snow increase and it gets deeper, what challenges do you face? If we'd had a meter of fresh powder in -20 right now, you can literally waft your hand and blow that stuff away like packaging foam. But you know, when you get like powder in -7 to -10 or 11, like we are now, it's going to be a bit heavier. When you get heavy winds, you get snow drifts, and suddenly, you know, you get warm weather, you get sugar snow. You know, everything really changes, and the tyre you choose for that, and the way you build your vehicle and how heavy it is going to have a massive impact on it. Really, for a vehicle of this weight, if it was on a set of like Nokia Hakkapeliitta 38 tyres, then it's going to perform a lot better in those scenarios we were just in than on some like 35 1250s that don't air down very well. And that's kind of what you want to be looking at really in tyres. Like if you can't afford those sorts of tyres, which I can't, like the Arctic truck tyres, they're very expensive. You can use other types of tyre to achieve a similar thing. They might not be as effective, but they can certainly be very effective in deep snow, and it's really mostly all about how that tyre airs down and its footprint. And you just want that footprint to be as big, as long, as wide as possible, and that's pretty much it. You know, if you look at this Cooper tyre, when it airs down, it's got a really terrible footprint. The sidewall is really stiff. It doesn't want to air down, it doesn't want to balloon out. And then when you stack that up side by side to like a BF Goodrich KM3 mud terrain, which airs down like a balloon, it airs down very well. It has a big footprint, it's got quite bulgy sidewalls, you know, it balloons out nicely. That tyre outperforms this tyre on snow of the same size, of course, because I've tested it. You know, I used to run that tyre actually in these conditions and it was a lot better. But obviously I don't do that anymore because it's on a different rim. The tyres have worn down, they're not studded. It would take a lot to get them back to make them a legal winter tyre here in Northern Europe, so I just don't bother with them anymore. But anyway, I'm no snow wheeling expert, just somebody who's been doing it for the last 6 or 7 years, or winters, whatever, experimenting with different stuff. And you know, kind of, I just thought I'd make a video for people who are new to kind of snow and are curious about it. Maybe you've got a Cherokee or a similar weight vehicle, a similar setup, like a jack of all trades, a master of none, which is what my vehicle really is, an adventure vehicle, and you're just curious about what it can do and what you might need to go out. And there you go. So I hope everyone else has had a great holiday season. I just want to say a big thanks for all your support in 2024. A huge thank you to those of you who support me on Patreon. It's never expected but always appreciated. I just want to say yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon in another video. So got any tips for me or anyone below, please write in the comment section. Remember, I'll delete your comment and I'll use that as my knowledge. I'll pretend I thought of that. So it's just, you know, it's YouTube, all right? It's how we work. Take care. See you soon. I literally just stopped to film some elk, and here I am, not getting out of that one easily. I've got to let my tyres down again now. It's the annoying thing. I need to get a new compressor really that's faster. I might try and winch off that tree. I'm out. Jesus, I'm out. That was bad. There was no getting out of there without the winch, and I blew the fuse on the winch because I put the wrong fuse in a while ago. And that was all a lot of bollocks really. But I used a double winch line pull to get me out, so like from the winch there and on that corner and on a snatch block on the tree, and yeah, it got me out, mate. It got me out. Jesus, what an insurance policy. Fuck. And I'm obviously trying to go uphill. I mean, it's always inclines that are the problem in snow, because you're dealing with a lower traction surface and you're trying to push things, kind of like when you're in the bedroom and you're trying, you know, low traction. You know what I'm saying? Like, fucking... I've decided to park up here on the edge, or on the edge of the war zone. You can see the fog in the distance there. It appears to be a void here where I've found a safe spot where it hasn't encroached on us yet, but it's coming. It's coming. It's just closing on in, getting ever so nearer, slowly and slowly. And who knows what's in there? Who knows what we can get away with in there? Yeah, like there are probably 7 or 8 local dogging groups and swingers clubs already capitalizing on the lack of visibility in there, and they couldn't see who it was, so they thought it was another member, but it was actually just an unsuspecting member of the public. And now, you know, where's the liability? Where's the liability? So the things that happen in the fog stay in the fog, they say. Apparently it's Gates spraying shit everywhere. That's what Instagram's telling us, is that it's some sort of chemical attack. Apparently mRNA vaccination stuff is in there. I've had to bleep all that out, by the way, because YouTube's like hot on that, by the way. So if any of those words are mentioned in the comments section, deleted straight away. Like vaccination, Gates, mRNA, any of that kind of stuff, COVID, just gets deleted immediately. It's really interesting. So, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe something's going on. I just saw some elk, which was really cool. And I have been doing a little bit of wildlife spotting up here. This isn't a dogging site. This is just somewhere I've ended up, really. So anyway, I'm chatting shit, and that's probably going to have to be in the outtakes because I've just let that one go. But look at the trees; they're covered in fog. The trees are saturated in fog. I expect if you lick a tree, you've involuntarily signed a waiver, right? Don't lick trees. Okay, words from me. Don't take a shit in the forest in -25, or you will have a shitsicle coming out, and who knows what you could do with that. You could sharpen it into a weapon. And what's going on right now? I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I should probably just end the video. You're a fogger. It's a new swear word.